Thank you for tuning in to the BizNation podcast. My name is Kerry Zarb, and I've been helping business owners just like you go from headache to heaven in a heartbeat for over 20 years. I'll be giving you all the top advice for getting started in your business, but I'll also be speaking with some of the best business minds to inspire you with valuable insights to help you get ahead in your business. If you've ever hit a roadblock or lost your passion, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the BizNation podcast. I'm Kerry and this is episode 63. Today we have a super guest lined up. Joining us is Daniel Powers from Real Brave. And as the surname says, he has amazing powers to share with us today. Daniel comes to us from New York in the United States with over 18 years experience in building businesses across the globe. Daniel is going to share with us some of the effects he has seen on businesses in the United States about the pandemic and during that time. Let's unpack this together. Welcome aboard, Daniel.
Thank you so much for having me today, Kerry. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's great to have you here. I appreciate your time, and we're just going to dive right in and unpack this together and have some fun.
Sounds good.
Excellent. So, Daniel, my first question to you is, let's go back. I really want to know why you started Real Brave and what it's all about. Can you explain that for the listeners?
Sure. Well, if anybody's listening's ever known an artist, a songwriter, someone who pursued music, wanted to become a rock star, that was me. I was that person. So it was natural for me to want to continue that somehow, but it wasn't paying the bills, basically. So I had this grandiose idea, once my daughter was born, of course, to start the business. And it started out as part recording studio and part lesson, but it was really more recording than it was lessons. And I really was trying to find, my stage still. Did a lot of recording for film, TV, did a lot of distribution deals, really anything I could. I could go on and on about it, but ultimately the lesson portion won, because that's really where the need was. So I was able to, around 2006, 2007, start filtering that out a little bit. And about 2008, my second daughter was born. I had a conversation with my wife, and I said, I'm going to stop music. 2008, 2009. And she was taken back. But, honestly, since then, it's just taken off. It's grown. It's done amazing things. And it turns out, Real Brave was the best song I've ever written. So.
Right. Awesome. Great. So you were originally writing songs. Have I heard this correctly?
I was a songwriter. I mean, I was in bands. I did a bunch of stuff, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And that's what I wanted to do. But ultimately, getting to the business model, being in we were part recording studio, part lessons. I started seeing the opportunity with lessons, teaching, giving back. I was doing it anyway, but then more of my time was spent in lessons. And then the recording studio aspect kind of went away around 2008, 2009, 2010. It was really the final countdown, if you will, of the recording part.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. So now you're in the business space. So now you're hovering around and helping others in business by the sound of it. So give us a little bit of a snapshot of, during the pandemic, it's been such an awful time, and so many people have, suffered and businesses have, been turned upside down. We've heard the word pivot used across the globe. It's,
Sure.
It's quite been the buzzword of 2020, and I think it's continuing through to 2021. So what have you seen? What's out there? What's happening?
Well, to be clear, I'm not just we're not necessarily coaching or helping in general, but there are a few things that I do that do fall under what you said. So number one, I'm part of Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. It's an initiative that it's kind of like a learning program from years back what you were able to take for free. Goldman Sachs paid for it, learn about business. But afterwards, they created 10 KSB. It's 10,000 small businesses, but 10,000 voices. And I'm on the leadership council for that. And what that means is we're able to help talk to policymakers here in the U.S. about issues that, quite frankly, mean a lot to small businesses. This is not political. This is just the plain fact. A lot of times we get taken for granted. We're seen as they're taken from our pocket a lot of times. That it's taxes or whatever the case may be. During the pandemic, we found an opening to be able to tell our story and tell them exactly what was happening. So we had a huge impact on some of the policy making. Like, I don't know if you've heard it, there's the PPP program that the government was able to send money to struggling small businesses and they get them through the pandemic. And that was really kind of, I think, the main thing. Personally, I know a lot of businesses in the New York City area, New Jersey area that are struggling. So we're constantly talking to each other. Mm-hmm. It could be a mentorship or friendship, whatever you want to I guess, whatever umbrella you want to put it under. Mm-hmm. But a lot of 30% of the businesses in New York City, anyway, 30% of the businesses in New York City have either folded or have severely cut back. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure this is not just New York City. This is worldwide because we're just starting to come out of this right now. Mm-hmm. I know Australia and a couple other places around the world haven't been as deeply impacted because some places we were able to do a better job, and not necessarily every sector, but we certainly got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, I agree with that. And here in Australia, like, it's almost feeling like things are back to normal, but at any moment it can snap. And then there's another small wave and some new restrictions and that kind of stuff. And this is happening globally. Many different countries are coming in and out of lockdowns at any given time. So businesses to cope with that and to, roll through that. No one's got the crystal ball. We don't know what's coming next and what's going to happen. So it's such an interesting time, but scary. A lot of businesses just don't understand what's next for them. Would you agree?
Right. Use the word pivot. That's the hot word of 2020, 2021. And because of business innovation, yes, we don't know what's going to happen, but the future is going to be very innovative. Take, for instance, my business and what we did. We were backs up against the wall. I made a decision to push everybody online, which is very similar to what a lot of people in the music school space did. A lot of independent contractors did. But me owning 3 locations, having, dozens of employees, I had to figure it out quick. Mm. So just picture this for a second. Imagine having your 3 locations now they're gone, and thinking of the future, like what that holds. We were now the same as everybody else. So I had to innovate. Yep. What I decided to do was invest in software so we can build a platform. Actually, something like Riverside, which is interesting. We built a video platform so that folks can come on our platform branded, and it's a video room where the students and teachers are talking to each other and having the lessons. And then we built apps in there. And this way we had at least an online studio. We weren't the same as everyone else. So that's innovation. That's the way that I brought myself to the space and made a pivot. And now the future is bright. We can do subscriptions. We can be around the world. I've taught people in Sydney, and the future is bright. A lot of businesses are figuring out something similar. Like they're trying to find new ways to sell what they or do what they do, and new ways, new technology, new software, new innovations. So much is going to come out of it that I think that we are going to have the roaring 20s, no doubt about it. But it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. No doubt about that. But the roaring 20s are coming.
They are. I agree with that so much because, normally in 2020, like Zoom, anyone that had shares in Zoom was just, oh my God, that would have been crazy because Zoom just took off, and all of those spaces and new platforms like that, like Zoom, arrived to the marketplace, and new options, new virtual options, events are being held online in conference spaces of thousands of people. It's crazy.
It's
right?
madness. Yeah, it's totally mad. I took part in a couple of virtual events where thousands of people were on it, and they did a good job. I have to give it to them. I mean, it wasn't the same as an in-person event, but it had value to it. And that's everything that we as business owners want to be able to provide, because ultimately we are providing some sort of value, some emotional need. We're connecting with somebody on some level. So that's the thing with Zoom. We were just going to be the same as everyone else. And I just was like, I can't do this. I got to find something else as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And believe me, there are many thousands of people, even on Clubhouse, right? So Clubhouse is the perfect example, right? This is how we started talking. Clubhouse is the perfect example of innovation and timing, for quite frankly, because would they have been as successful if we were in lockdown? We don't know. We're not really quite sure. But I'll tell you one thing: I never want to go to a networking event again. I want to just use Clubhouse and stay that way for the rest of my life. Network in my PJs.
Yeah, it's really interesting because convenience has really come into our world. Like people, I'm sure there's businesses out there now going, hang on a minute, I used to pop my sales rep on a plane and send them, to another state or another country, and then I paid for accommodation and transfers and, meals, all this kind of stuff. They can do this online. Like businesses have got this opportunity to turn this into a positive and, save some really good funds in this space. And I agree with you that, the face-to-face value will always be there. It's always going to be present because we're human. We need to interact, as humans.
Yeah.
But this convenience that's been brought to us, just by chance of the COVID pandemic, people will take advantage of that space and use that convenience in their business to either save the funds or save the time. It's money or time, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I totally agree. And just to go back to what you were saying, there is a need for human interaction. So yes, we have to get back to some sort of normalcy, but the innovation that occurred during this time is going to have a rippling effect throughout the economies of the world. The vaccines are going to have a huge effect on medicine because of the way that they were built, or not built, but put together. They're using RNA. They're not using the same. See, I know a little bit about the science, and we were joking about that before. But the truth is that this is going to change the face of business over time, quicker than we probably even understand. And I think the future is very bright. It's just that we need to get there. It's like what a lot of my friends in the business world are saying. We have to wait and survive this.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of ride the wave, but at the same time, do what you can to cope and to, pivot and get with the times that what can you do? It's unfortunate, right. And none of us saw it coming, and we still don't have a crystal ball on it. So we've got to roll with it. You're listening to the BizNation podcast. I would love to connect with you outside of the podcast, and you can find me on Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn by searching my name, Kerry Zarb, or directly on my website at kerryzarb.club. And don't forget, if you need more support in your business, you can find the community on Facebook at BizNation Support Group. So, Daniel, I want to ask you, let's go back to your particular circumstance when you moved everything online and, remote working and that kind of stuff. What did that look like? Like, did you have a little panic attack when you were going through this process of bringing all the pieces together? What was that like?
Oh, Kerry, it was really difficult. If there's one thing that I knew for certain prior to the pandemic, there's one certainty: we were safe. We had a safe facility. Nobody was getting hurt, or there was like any lingering disease anywhere. As far as I knew, we were very safe. So when that was stripped away, it was a life-changing event for me, because I didn't know if we were ever going to go back to the studio.
Yep.
Right. So that's number one. Number two, I had to take 1,200 students, 80 instructors, and get them into this new 2D format that we're in right now. And in the beginning, we were just on, a Zoom type Google Meet platform before we moved to PracticePad, the thing that we built. Mm-hmm. So getting there was was difficult. And I will say it was probably March 11th when there was the chatter. The chatter was there. We might close down, we might close down. And I talked to my managers and I said, I think we're going to close down. We better prepare. And they're like, stop it. A lot of people were like that in the city. So we were on the forefront. We got everybody on sooner than a lot of people did. But the funny thing is that once we did, I actually got really sick.
Oh, no.
I got really, really sick, and I hadn't been sick in years. So we got everybody online. We're all set and ready to go. I got really sick, and then I woke up like 3 days later. Seriously, like I was high fever. I must have had COVID. But I don't know. I never got tested. And half my student base was gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We lost 70% of revenue in second quarter. And it was scary. It was scary. So I spent all of April and May looking for as much money as we possibly could to survive. Probably took out $1 million in loans and all sorts of grants. I'm not scared of any of that stuff because that's how I built my business. But the reality is like this, I wasn't going to let this define me. And I was going to find a way to get through it or go down in a blaze of glory, whichever you were
going to go down trying at the very least.
Go down trying, yeah. So, yeah, that was the basic idea, and it was scary. But if there's one thing that any entrepreneur who is good at what they do should be saying is that when your back's up against the wall, you're going to fight like hell, and do what needs to be done to be successful. And I feel like we've done that. We kept people safe. We kept our instructors home for over 7 months. A lot of them are still home. Yep. Now we're in a rehiring phase. We've been open since August, and we've got about 280 days to turn it around. And I am just dead set on doing it. And I think once we've turned it around and got back to some sort of a normalcy, we've got PracticePad now worldwide, and we're going to be able to grow exponentially. So let's see what happens.
That's exciting. It really is.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Like hats off to you for, making this transformation and surviving, if I can use that word. It's a pretty bold word, but I think, that's my buzzword for 2021, surviving. Yeah, COVID, it's insane. And still not to have a roadmap in front of us, to have still this void of unknown and, meet those challenges head on and diversify and make it happen. That's just amazing. I think that's incredible. So thanks for sharing that, by the way, because I think one of the things as a business owner that I see a lot is, I guess that, what do they call it? Like you've got to be honest with yourself. You've got to be real, and you've actually got to, look at some of the circumstances and, fight or flight. Really, it's very fight or flight, and I'm really pleased to hear that you've moved in this space. You've moved quickly and you've diversified, and sounds like it's going to be wildly successful and probably adds to the business in the long term. Like having implemented this what's it called, PracticePad?
PracticePad, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Did you build that with a team of developers or?
Yeah, so developing software is quite a journey. I decided to not hire in-house because it's too expensive. So a lot of people find agencies. So the long story short is we hired an agency. I've done a lot of the CTO work, Chief Technical Officer, and wireframed and make sure that we're on a path. So we phase one, we got the video portion working. Phase two, we launched and had like some recording interface in there that helps with practice, and also our curriculum is loaded in. Phase three is going to be this year sometime midsummer through the end of the year, where we have an audio recording interface. We've got the commercial version ready so that people can get inside and have a good experience. And just scale from there. My goal really is to go from 1,000 students is what we had before. That's normal, and 10x, 10,000 students worldwide, and sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's good that
Thank you.
you're also still working on this. You've obviously implemented the urgent things first and you've gone through those steps. I love the phases, that's awesome. And I think that's so needed, but there's more to come. So it's exciting
Oh
times
yeah.
ahead. Yeah,
Very
fantastic.
exciting times. A lot of work, a lot of weekends, a lot of nights, and then sprinkled in there are baseball games with my kids, and soccer, and basketball, and cheer, and date night. Hopefully, every once in a while. So
You've got to make
it's
time for
it's going to
date
be.
night.
Got to make time for it. It's important. Being married to an entrepreneur, I'm sure, is not easy.
Yeah,
If I was married to myself, I wouldn't like myself. Let's just put it that way.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, can I ask you a little bit further in what you're seeing during this pandemic? We've got some other words to kind of hit here, like culture and values. Just to kind of unpack that for us, what are you seeing? What's happening, whether it's yourself or to others?
Well, here in the States, there's a movement that's hard on business, which is the antithesis of kind of like culture. Is the thing. There's a large from my side, from my opinion. There's a large amount of people that are interested in moving more towards a workforce that is that has more flexibility. It's unionized and is not totally dedicated to whatever like people think that they're dedicated to, and that makes it a little bit harder for some businesses. So values a values driven business is really the way to go, where you're looking at your employees and thinking the best for them, which is how I've always been. But the same token, you want people that are driven and like looking to add value and not just like earn a paycheck. And like that's kind of where I'm going for it. What I'm saying here, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, right? But there is a movement, with the minimum wage, which is needed. I mean, people need to make a minimum wage that's that they can live a life with. But what I'm saying is, a values driven business, meaning you're working for your employees. They're not working for you. That's something that I try to strive for with my employees. A culture that gives back. So we have, as many perks as we can. We're still a small business. I mean, we can't do a lot, but working with them as much as we can to drive their lives and, give them time away from the business too. Like that's important. Like they need to take time off. That's the thing. So America is a little bit behind in some ways with some of these concepts. For my company, I try to give back as much as we can. It just depends on who's there. I mean, if you're giving, we're going to try to give back. If you're just kind of punching in and clocking out, I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's, you got
Yeah.
to give a little bit more in this world, in this economy, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen a massive change in that here in Australia, and I think it'll eventually reach the global level. And different businesses are going to experience this at different times. But yeah, there's a whole new level of appreciation for our team, and they've had this massive change in their life. For those that were coming into the office and doing the 9 to 5, and everything was normal and everything was regular, and there was this routine, their lives have been turned upside down. So, and I think more and more employers are actually recognising the value of their team, as well as the fact that they're human and they've got a
Right.
life and they need to be looked after, and yeah, exactly what you're saying. So I think that's great. Obviously you had this before in your business, and this was a really high standing point in your business, but more businesses are coming on board with that, which is great to see.
Yes. And the work from home model is important to us now. I never really thought that we would be able to get that. But imagine this. I mean, the work from home model for a small business, we made it work. So
Yeah.
it's actually solving a problem that we had, which is we work with musicians and they would go away. They would go on tour and like we would have to figure out like how to replace them. But now they can actually use PracticePad on tour. So and teach their students if they're going to be away for a weekend. It's opened up the notion that you can work part-time for our company and take care of your kids if you need to around that. It's opened up flexibility, the work from home model. So I'm going full steam into it, even though we pay enormous rents. We still have to do the in-person thing, but full steam into that because it's going to offer so much flexibility for the employee. It's going to offer they like it too. They like working from home. It's comfortable. Like I'm actually in my house right now, so I'm in my studio, and I'd like it too if I work from home. So I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think it certainly, like you said, small businesses don't have a lot to offer in the way of perks. I think the pandemic has changed this because the new perk is obviously being able to work from home and spend less time on the road or in traffic and, commuting and that type of thing, and just have that flexibility. Small businesses are now offering employees to, change up their work hours, perhaps spending different days of the week or different times of the day, whatever suits their lifestyle. And that I've seen that change a lot here in Australia. Are you seeing that as well?
As far as what?
As far as hours are concerned, like having more flexible working hours, or are you seeing still some structure to that?
Bigger companies have kept their employees home across the boards. Companies like Salesforce, that they instructed their companies not to come back for a while, and I think they're starting to come back in June. There's I know for a fact that Chase, which is a huge bank, they had people working from home and a lot more flexibility. And according to the statistics that I've seen and talked to a couple people that are around us, 40% of the businesses, at least in the United States, are going to use at least some sort of work from home model, at least part-time, if not full-time. It's not going to replace the in-person thing because some folks want to come back to work, like you said, but it's certainly going to be in play. And you're talking about that has a ripple effect too.
Yeah.
Because now cities are going to get affected. But yeah, I mean, the big companies, I never like saying corporations, big companies have made a significant adjustment that really does affect the worker. I think there's a lot of places that can't. I mean, we were fortunate to be able to do that. Restaurants can't do that. You can't work from home in a restaurant.
No.
You can't work from home, in any sort of like retail environment unless you're just going to close down your store and just work from online. I mean, we can give example after example, but the foundation has been laid for the future where I do think that it's just going to be more and more work from home.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, obviously technology's helped a lot with that because being in the era that we are, I just said to someone on a previous episode, imagine if this happened 20 years ago, like that would be devastating, to not have the internet as it is and technology as it is. I still think of it like nearly every day, how impactful that is, and how fortunate we are that this has happened during this time and this era.
I think that that's a great point, Kerry. I really do. 20 years ago, logging into, AOL, America Online or something like that, waiting for the dial-up tone. And then if that was even possible, I mean, during 9/11, just to give you an example, I was in New York City and we were shut down. Like there was nothing, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything for a week. And I didn't realize the significance of that until years later when I was a little bit older. And then thinking back, like, wow, there was a good week or two that we didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything. It was very upsetting. But we were allowed to move around. So that a lot of businesses, which was what they were saying at the time, please open up again because we need to get back to normalcy. The significance of today is that we were shut down for months.
Yeah.
Months. So that's way different. A week it feels devastating. 2 weeks, it's like, yeah, that's borderline like crushing. Months, it's the people that I've talked to in 10KSB, 90 to 100% down in revenue. I have a friend who owns a very successful business, not too far away from me in a similar place. He owes, $500,000-$600,000 in rent. He's not going to pay that back.
Yeah. So
those stories are compounded, and you're not hearing them. You're not hearing them on the news every single day. I'm sure you're not hearing them in the news in Australia, and everybody's given like the chipper kind of like we're going to be okay, and I believe we are too. But who's going to be left behind in this? And if the small business owner is left behind, we're leaving behind innovation. We're leaving behind your neighbors. You're leaving behind companies that were on the rise and then now falling. And what are we going to do? And it has a ripple effect in the economy So I hope I answered your question. I feel like I went on there.
Yeah,
I get pretty passionate about this stuff. Like I'm not not that I want to go into politics because that's not something I want to do. But I get pretty passionate about it.
Are you sure you don't want to go into politics?
I don't. It's just too. It's if it was like cut and dry and like you could just like make a difference in people's lives, great. But it gets so like stuck in like fake things.
Yeah,
I don't know how else to describe it.
I agree with that. I really do. I think all of us, that are passionate in our rightful spaces, we want to make a difference, and the idea of going to a higher level sounds amazing, but the politics, man, no.
The politics, man, I can't. I know. I agree. Yeah. I started a nonprofit about 8 years ago. It's called After School Rocks. I felt like I was very fortunate to have this wonderful business, and After School Rocks gives back. It's very small, but we give formerly homeless children the access to music education that they would never get anywhere.
Wow.
So we work with a couple of supportive housing units, one in particular right now because of the pandemic. And we're able to use PracticePad because we can do it, outside of there before we were doing it in person, and give them access to music. And it's great. It's one of the most amazing things. So I like to pick and choose where we're able to get back. That's one of them. It's near and dear to my heart. Seeing a child pick up an instrument for the first time and then just be like amazed at it is just life-changing.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you brought that up because I wouldn't have known that. So that's an interesting fact. What's the name of it again?
It's called After School Rocks.
After School Rocks. Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
And has that got a website? Have you got like its own platform and it?
Nothing that I've updated. That's a problem.
It's on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list of things to do. It's afterschoolrocks.org. It's a dreadfully not updated website, and probably could use some spiffing up. So if anybody's out there wants to do it, please do it. And online at After School Rocks and any of the social channels. But we've done some really cool things with it. Like small fundraising events. That's just helping like 10 people get access to music lessons over the past couple of years has been great. And it's also a lesson for me because I get to go back. I get to get into the community and remind myself that that there are people that are struggling, and this is good. This is a good thing to do to just help somebody. I mean, there's no better thing in the world than being able to just give something to someone from your heart. And that, if anybody has been following along, is really kind of like the basis of business anyway.
Yeah.
Emotional attachment. If you're filling a need, and if you're able to do that, if you're able to fill a need, a problem, you're solving a problem, but really speak to them emotionally. I mean that. If you're selling soap, fine, but how do you really connect? But with After School Rocks, it's a true just same idea, like just filling a need, doing something really just fun and exciting for a kid that has had a hard life, honestly.
Yeah. I really like that. I think that's amazing, and it's great when you've got that option to be able to do that. And I think we reach this point in our business and in our lives where it is time to give back. That's something that I've discovered in recent years as well. And yeah, it's an amazing space to be in, and it's really good that there's no price tag. It's not about the money. It's good to do something just from your heart and something that you want to really dive into and give. It's just an incredible space. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's awesome.
Oh, well, I'm glad I brought it up. Sometimes I forget.
Yeah, no, that was just very fortunate that came to mind because I did not know about that space at all, and I'm sure it's something that needs to be shared. I think we've all got that option as we reach that point in business, to be financially stable to be able to do something like that. So congratulations. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
So, Daniel, I wanted to also just check with you about some other things that you're seeing in the States, just because I'm super curious about what's going on that side of the world, because we don't get – and obviously we can dive into the US news and that kind of stuff, but the news doesn't doesn't interest me. There's a lot of clickbait and big headlines and weird stuff happening behind it. So just a quick snapshot of what you're seeing in business. We understand that everyone's suffering and everyone's going through this odd time, but is the vibe coming back? Is positivity starting to flow back into people's lives?
It's a mixed bag. Honestly, from my point of view, from Main Street, I'll put it from like a marketing point of view. Okay. So from a click marketing point of view, when you're looking at pre-pandemic, okay, I'm going to go this way and I hope this works for you. Pre-pandemic, when we would look at the volume of clicks that we would get and the results because of that, and then our ROI or like, click-through rate and all that good stuff, we would get, I don't know, 100, 125 people to walk through the doors every month and take a lesson and sign up or whatever they were going to do. And there is a hesitancy, like I started with, because it's not safe, to do that. And that's very evident because we've tripled our budget in some aspects. Seeing interest, we're getting maybe the rates are a little bit lower on the clicks, but eight people will walk through the doors. And what that tells me is that they're not ready yet. They're not totally 100% there. They're going to go to the supermarket. Supermarkets are just like, whoever owns a supermarket right now, I mean, you're just making a ton of money. Jeez. Pizzerias in the US, are probably doing fine. Like there's certain parts of the economy that are doing really well because it's a necessity. Unfortunately, the Targets and the Walmarts and all that, the Amazons are doing fantastic.
Yep.
Right. And then there's people that work through Amazon and like they're selling, so they're probably doing really well. But from like a Main Street local level, there's a lot of people that are just 30% down. That's like the number. Yeah. Right now I'm about 40% down in revenue. So, but when I talk to people that own businesses, entrepreneurs, or just small business people, just call them small business owners and on Main Street, there's that heart still, like it's going to be okay. Yeah. That heart is always there. When we're talking offline, we're having a beer or talking, frankly, we're able to speak to the fears that we all know are there. But ultimately, we're just waiting for September, December, like that line. We just got to get there.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's the good thing at the moment is there is that light at the end of the tunnel. We probably don't all know exactly when it's going to happen and what it's going to look like, but the fact that it's even coming at least gives some hope to business owners out there that, there are better times ahead. And over here, I'm not sure exactly over there, but over here there's been a lot of businesses that have pivoted and flourished. We had one particular business here in Australia was a distillery, and they flipped over to making hand sanitizer because there was such a need, talk about tapping into the market of the times. Like that was just incredible and such a good story and such a, amazing situation that they were able to do that. There's still a distillery as well, but, bringing in hand sanitizer and meeting that demand. And that's what I'm seeing here in Australia. It's supply and demand. Like you said, the grocery stores, the food outlets, that's a necessity. And that's something, particularly takeaway food, that's normal, but yeah, definitely. And then, as far as businesses that have suffered and are still suffering, everyone is down to some degree. There's a loss, a percentage loss there somewhere. But, online's taken off. Online shopping, deliveries, oh, my God, amazing. It's just incredible, that space. Courier drivers must be just tearing their hair out for the last 12 months, and doing wicked hours to try and keep up. And I'm sure It's the same over there, yeah?
Yeah, online retail, online service, it's still it's like a 50-50 thing. So like for me, the future is bright. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think we're going to be able to, because now that online learning has become somewhat of a normalcy, like people are not like, pushing away. I'll give you an example of like when it started. So when we first started and I woke up from the 3-day, hiatus, and I was feeling a little bit better and I saw all the students gone, and I started calling some people and I had said, hey, we're moving to this online version of what we do. And the people that quit, besides the financial stuff, the majority of them were just like, oh, online doesn't work. Online teaching doesn't work. And they never even tried it.
Wow.
So there was a fear of the unknown, which some people just like, I don't want to do it. I'm scared of it. I don't want to do it. That's impossible to sell to. There's just the stubbornness, like, well, this wasn't working for us anyway. I'm going to try something new, not try the thing that we worked really hard for.
Yeah.
There's that too. But yeah, I think now that we've established this as a thing, a lot of children here in the U.S. Have been doing this for a year, and say what you want about it, but it's a thing that they understand. So now it's not necessarily a new thing. So now we know we've established it, and our service online has a future. It's just a matter of just establishing who that customer avatar is. It's not going to be for everybody.
No,
it's not. It's just not going to be for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's going to be 10% of the population. We feel it's about 50% of our students were not ideal, and the other 50% were. So there's a market for it, and just like with everything, there's certain things that work for some people, and certain things that don't.
Yeah, awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, Daniel, and thanks for sharing so much of your story and your journey on today's episode. I've really enjoyed hearing what's happening in the States, how you've diversified your business, and, like, honestly, to go back and think, you had those few days where you were just laid up and you couldn't really be involved. It must have been such a daunting time for you. So I appreciate you being so vulnerable and sharing all of that with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's really great doing this with you, and thank you for having me on.
No, you're very welcome. But I must remember, before we wrap it up, where do we find you? What are your social handles?
You're going to find me at Daniel Powers Jr.
Awesome.
On
Wonderful.
all the platforms. Yeah, and find me there, and that's the best way to get me.
Amazing. I'll pop some links in the show notes for the listeners so that we can reach out and get in touch. That would be fantastic. And thank you again for coming on the show. It's been awesome to chat with you today.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the BizNation podcast. It was lovely to share this episode with you. Remember to subscribe to catch all future episodes, and I would also very much love it if you'd leave me a rating or a review. Until next time, remember that you can also go from headache to heaven in a heartbeat.